They're not
So
going to be injecting
let's
themselves.
quickly read the Black Hebrew Israelites, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. The origins of the Black Hebrew Israelite movement.
Where are you
Again,
reading this from, by the way?
This is Wikipedia.
Okay.
I was just gonna say that because I guess we got to take what we're reading here with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
The origins of the Black Hebrew Israelite movement are found in Frank Cherry and William Saunders Crowdy, who both claimed that they had revelations, in which they believe that God told them that African Americans are descendants of the Hebrews in the Christian Bible. Cherry established the Church of the Living God, the pillar ground of truth for all nations, in 1886. And Crowdy founded the Church of God and Saints of Christ in 1896. Cherry taught that the Talmud was authoritative.
Interesting.
That Jesus would return in the year 2000 and in a, quote, square earth surrounded by 3 layers of heaven. Okay. The playing of the piano and the collection of tithes during Black Hebrew Israelite worship was forbidden by Cherry, who also taught that the eastward direction of prayer and denigrated white Jews as interlopers. The Church of God and Saints of Christ, originating in Kansas, retained elements of a messianic connection to Jesus. Another early figure was William Christian. The pioneers of the movement were Freemasons, and it was strongly influenced by the Masonic traditions. I highly doubt that. It was probably a Platonic inner organization. By the way, look at the beginnings of this crap came around the same time that they founded Reformed and Conservative Judaism.
Yeah.
I also wager that it was by the same people. The communists, the Illuminati.
Yeah.
Okay. In the late 19th century, Cherry's and Crowdy's followers continued to propagate the claim that they were the biological descendants of the Israelites. And during the following decades, many more Black Hebrew congregations were established. After Frank Cherry's death in 1963, his son, Prince Benjamin F. Cherry, took over leadership of the Black Hebrew Israelite movement. After World War I, for example, Wentworth Arthur Matthew, an immigrant from St. Kitts, founded another Black Hebrew congregation in Harlem, claiming descent from the ancient Israelites. He called it Commandment Keepers of the Living God. Similar groups selected elements of Judaism and adapted them within a structure similar to that of a Black church. Matthew incorporated his congregation in 1930 and moved it to Brooklyn, where he later founded the Israelite Rabbinical Seminary, where Black Hebrew rabbis have been educated and ordained. The group sometimes employs street preaching to promote their ideology. Yes, we know. Sidewalk ministers may employ provocation to advance a message that is often anti-Semitic, racist, and xenophobic. This primarily gained notice in the news through their street preaching that purportedly targeted students of Covington Catholic High School in Kentucky in January 2019. Oh, yeah, that was also the Black Hebrew Israelites that provoked that whole shit.
Yep.
The hell are they doing in Kentucky? That's weird.
Can I read to you about this Wentworth Arthur Matthew guy?
There's just one more sentence, and then I'm all ears because I'm fascinated. One student reported the Black Hebrew Israelites called students racist, bigots, white crackers, faggots,
Mhm.
and incest kids.
Mhm.
And he told an African American student that white classmates would harvest his organs.
Mhm.
Okay.
No,
Please tell us about
Burla
Wentworth.
will. All right, let's read about this Wentworth Arthur Matthew guy. Born in 1892, passed away in 1973. West Indian immigrant to New York City, was the founder of 1919 of the Commandment of Keepers of Living God, Black Hebrew Congregation. It was influenced by the Pan-Africanism and Black nationalism of Marcus Garvey. Remember Marcus Garvey?
Oh, yeah.
From Jamaica. Matthew developed his congregation along Jewish lines of observance and the theory that they were returning to Judaism as the true Hebrews. He incorporated in 1930 and moved the congregation to Brooklyn. There he founded the Israelite Rabbinical Academy, teaching and ordaining African American rabbis. His theory of Black Hebrews is not accepted by Jews. According to Matthew, he was born in Lagos, Nigeria. Other sources, including his own records, say he was born in St. Kitts. By the way, the St. Kitts and Nevis. So Alexander Hamilton was born in Nevis.
Wow.
British West Indies, its islands. He and his family became what?
Pretty close to Antigua.
Yes. He and his family became naturalized United States citizens. Here it talks about his family, blah, blah, blah. Here. Yeah, he was strongly influenced by the white Jews he had met. When he learned about the Beta Israel of Ethiopia, he began to identify with them. Matthew trained rabbis who set up synagogues throughout the United States and Caribbean. When interviewed, many of the older members of his community recall memories of their parents observing Jewish dietary laws, such as abstaining from pork or salting their meat. Matthew and his congregation were also strongly influenced by the Pan-African philosophy of Garvey, and his Black nationalist organization, the Universal Negro Improvement Association. Rabbi Arnold Josiah Ford composed the UNIA's Universal Ethiopian Anthem and its hymnal. He also led the UNIA band and conducted its choir. In his theory of Black Hebrews, Matthew believed that African Americans were the original Jews, descended from the lost tribes. He thought that whiter European Jews were the descendants of the Khazars and had kept and preserved Judaism. Black Hebrews talked of regaining and returning to Judaism. Conservative Orthodox Jews did not agree with his theory and believed that people either had to be descended directly from Jewish mothers or undergo recognized conversion under Jewish authorities to be considered Jews. Matthew eventually concluded Black Jews or Black Hebrews, as in his congregations, would not be accepted by the white Jewish community. Matthew's congregation followed traditional Jewish law with selective variations.
Again, they would have been accepted if they just converted according to Torah law.
Well, that's what, like Stoudemire and people like that. Men and women were seated separately. Standard Orthodox Jewish prayer books were used, and the laws concerning Shabbat and Kashrut were observed. Matthew incorporated his congregation in 1930, and it eventually moved to Brooklyn. He established the Israel Rabbinical Academy. Wentworth Matthew's teachings are followed today by many Black Hebrews and Black Hebrew Israelites, which have developed along different lines. The latter reject whites altogether. Matthew believed that Black people who converted to Judaism were not converting, but rather returning to Judaism. So it's like a Baal Tshuva kind of thing. Matthew applied and was rejected twice to become a member of the New York Board of Rabbis, as he did not satisfy the rules of Jewish descent or conversion by recognized Orthodox or conservative course. I thought it was because he didn't want to eat herring and shoal and kugel. They resisted his introducing African, Caribbean, or African American practices into Jewish worship. According to a 2002 article by Rabbi Shlomo Ben Levi, also a Black Hebrew, after Matthew's death in 1973, there was little connection between Black Jews and white congregants in New York and elsewhere. Legacy: rabbis ordained from Israelite Rabbinical Academy in Brooklyn have become spiritual leaders of Black Hebrews in numerous cities. For instance, Capers Fournier Jr., or Funny, of Chicago, studied with and was ordained by Levi Ben Levi, a spiritual leader of the Hebrew Israelite movement in Brooklyn from the Commandment Keepers tradition. In 1985, Fournier started as an assistant rabbi at the Bet Shalom B'nai Zaken Ethiopian Hebrew congregation in Chicago, which he now leads. It is the largest Black Jewish or Black Hebrew congregation in the U.S. He also underwent a conversion certified by conservative court rabbis and earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in Jewish Studies and Master of Science in Human Service Administration from the Spiritus Institute of Jewish Studies in Chicago.
You see what I mean? Why did he go to the trouble of converting through conservative Judaism?
Unbelievable.
Why not just do it?
Unbelievable. He has worked for decades to build bridges with traditional Judaism. In 1995, he was one of 3 founders of the Alliance of Black Jews, together with Robin, founders from Boston and California. They sought to build bridges. Okay. It is no longer operating. Shais Rishon, a Black Orthodox Jewish writer and activist, has claimed that Matthew was a non-Jew who never belonged nor converted to any branch of Judaism. So there's
What's this guy's name?
The guy who claimed that?
No, the guy who's talking right now.
Shais Rishon, a Black Orthodox Jewish writer and activist, has claimed that Matthew was a non-Jew who never belonged nor converted to any branch of Judaism. Yeah, his pen name is Manishtana. He's like our age. I think I know the guy. There's a bunch of these guys in Jerusalem.
I read one of their blogs. There's a guy named Ever something.
Well, there's this guy Mordechai Ben Avraham, is a friend of mine.
No, we know him because
because
our friend Denise, she interviews him frequently.
Well, my friend Ari Lewis interviewed him.
And Ari Lewis.
But there's another guy, Shai Sri. He's part of the group of people. See, he wrote for like Tablet. He's like our age, like 40 years old. This guy.
Can I just quickly, just for a second, I want to read one sentence.
Okay.
Important women in Pan-Africanism, which this is all like kind of based on.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you have Amy Jacques Garvey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure she has no relation whatsoever to Marcus Garvey. Right? I'm joking. Yeah. Okay. Claudia Jones. All right, it was a Pan-African. Okay, and Claudia Jones actually. Oh, here was another Pan-Africanist. In order to fight against racism towards Black people in Britain, Jones set up the West Indian Gazette, which sought to cover topics such as the realities of South African apartheid and decolonization. Notable male Pan-Africanists such as Kwame Nkrumah, that's famous, were influenced by Jones, right? As she incorporated, what do you think she incorporated, Greg? Marxist-Leninist philosophy into Pan-Africanism.
Oh, that's a fun time.
Yeah, I just wanted to, they're always, Pan-Africans are always fighting against Israel's aggression towards the Palestinians. All right, continue. I'm sorry, I just wanted to throw that in there.
Oh, that's it. That's yeah. And then you have like people in Jerusalem here. African Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem. This whole thing about them. Splinter groups like Messianic division, subdivision of Black Hebrew Israelites. Yeah, they believe in the Old Testament and the New Testament, and identification of the 12 tribes of Israel with ethnic communities of Black, Latin American, and Native American descent in the Americas. West 125th Street in Harlem. Israeli School of Universal Practical Knowledge.
Crazy.
Yeah, you got this whole Gathering of Christ Church, Mashara Yasharala, and Israel United in Christ. In late 2008, listen to this, the Southern Poverty Law Center wrote that the extremist fringe of the Hebrew Israelite movement has a Black supremacist outlook. It wrote that the members of such groups that believe that the Jews are devilish imposters openly condemn whites as evil, personified, deserving only death or slavery. The SPLC wrote that most Hebrew Israelites are neither explicitly racist nor anti-Semitic and do not advocate violence. The Black Hebrew groups that are characterized as being Black supremacists by the SPLC include the Israelite School of Universal Practice. Also, these are guys from Harlem, 125th Street, the Nation of Yahweh, I guess they pronounce it, and the Israelite Church of God and Jesus Christ. The ADL has written that 12 Tribes of Israel website, which is maintained by a Black Hebrew group, promotes Black supremacy. As of December 2019, Southern Poverty Law Center. They're actually leftists, by the way. This Poverty Law Center thing lists
Yeah.
144 Black Hebrew Israelite organizations as Black separatist hate groups because of their anti-Semitic and anti-white beliefs. A 1999 FBI terrorism risk assessment report said that violent, radical fringe members of the Black Hebrew Israelite movement hold beliefs that bear striking resemblance to the Christian identity theology practiced by many white supremacists. 1999 assessment concluded that overwhelming majority of Black Israelites are unlikely to engage in violence. That's 23 years ago. So, by the looks of it, see attacks. December 2019, 2 people who expressed interest in the Black Hebrew Israelite movement were killed in a shootout with this is in Jersey City. Yeah. They had killed a police detective at Bayview Cemetery and 3 people at JC Kosher Supermarket in Jersey City. Victims were the Jewish co-owner of the grocery store, an employee, and a Jewish shopper. Authorities treated the incident as an act of domestic terrorism. Because at least Trump was still there. So I don't know if that was a reason, but see the Capers Fournier, who had been a rabbi for 26 years at this, the Chicago place, condemned the attack and said that his community was gripped by sadness over the heinous acts of 2 disturbed individuals who cloaked themselves in anti-Semitism and hate-filled rhetoric. He criticized the media reports, saying it was unfortunate the media uses the term Black Hebrew Israelites without distinction, as if the description is a one-size-fits-all, and is absolutely not. Fournier stated that we don't want to be seen as some radical fringe group with a false narrative because we were Black and profess Judaism. We're Torah-oriented Jews. December 28th, a man with a machete attacked several Orthodox Jewish people during Hanukkah in a house in Monsey, New York. Authorities revealed that his journals included references to Black Hebrew Israelites, stating that Hebrew Israelites have taken from Ebenoid Israelites, whatever the hell that is.
Ebenoid, meaning Black Israelites. Ebony.
Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, Zimbabwean novelist Masimba Musodza has stated that the doctrine which is taught by Hebrew Israelites forces their own ideas onto the text to promote their own agenda, which serves no purpose at all except to engender anti-Semitism in Black communities in Western countries. The historian Josephus, as well as theologians Emil Schur and Frederick Munter, wrote of Jewish slaves who were sold and served as laborers in Egypt and the Roman Empire, contradicting the Black Hebrew Israelite claim that Egypt is a metaphor for the Americas. Additionally, contrary to what is taught by Black Hebrew Israelites, no kingdom of Judah existed in West Africa, and the Middle Eastern state has no connection with the kingdom of Ouida. Yeah, I had a professor, a Cuban lady, white Cuban lady, who said that Israel is part of Africa. I don't know. I guess that's what... Black Hebrew Israelites have been criticized for making historical revisionist claims that do not acknowledge the poverty that Jews experience as immigrants in the United States. Fran Markowitz, a professor of cultural anthropology at Ben Gurion University of the Negev, writes that the Hebrew Israelite view of transatlantic slave trade conflicts with historical accounts, as do Hebrew Israelite belief that Socrates and William Shakespeare were Black.
They also think the Romans were Black.
If you want them, you got them.
By the way, it's not just the Jews; it's also the Romans that stole their identity too. That's also Black people.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Anyway, sir, I don't know what to tell you.
And also the Chinese were Black too.
Yes.
No, I'm serious. I'm not joking around. I've spoken to guys.
Blasian. What do you think the term Blasian came from?
You know what I'm saying?
Why do you think they
There's
love
a lot of normal Black people?
Why do you think?
Bad,
why do you think they love souped up cars so much? Why do you think they love Fast and the Furious?
I don't know. There's a lot of normal Black people.
Yes.
Yes. Surrounded by so many circuses.
Listen, all I know is I was watching the game between Senegal and Netherlands today. The coach of Senegal, that guy looks exactly like those guys that burn incense on Eastern Parkway. I can tell you that much. I was waiting for a fake Rolex to come out of his pocket.
Hang on 1 second. 1 second. What the fuck? See?
What is this?
I'm just trying to find keyword. All right. Now, there's the introductory, hold on. Basically, there's this website, it's called academic.oup.com. It's a book. There's an abstract of a book. So, Chosen People, the Rise of American Black Israelite Religions.
Yeah.
This introductory chapter first sets out book's primary focus, how English-speaking peoples in general, and specifically Black West Indians and African Americans, have mobilized the narratives of the Hebrew Bible in a succession of movements that claim descent from ancient Israelites, beginning in the 1890s. Most of these movements can be called quote unquote religious, but they are not simply about beliefs, discourses, rituals, practices, or the divine. That's what a religion you'd think would be about, right? They are also about history, belonging, and plans for migration, exodus, and this worldly liberation. The discussion then turns to the meaning of the term Black Israelite and the history of Black Israelite movements, an overview of the subject. I guess that's the abstract, but there's a quote here, like, you know, on the link itself, before you click on it. The discussion then turns to the meaning of the term Black Israelite, and then it continues Raymond William, and then base and superstructure in Marxist cultural theory. So I wanted to see, I'm just trying to see, like, if anybody wrote anything on the connection of Marxism to this movement. So there's already some indication just from the hits. The second, hold on, one second. That Black Lives Matter is not, well, Black Lives Matter, okay, is not anti-racism, but it's actually Marxist. That's Black Lives Matter. That's apparently not the same thing, although it probably is. Black replacement theology meets Marxist liberation theology. Hold on. davidstent.org. Not sure what this, davidstent.org. This is a website. This is this post was written in 2020 by Avner Bosky. I have no idea who this person is. I have no idea what this website represents. Let me just quickly take a quick look at it. And then if this doesn't work out, we'll reconvene next
Call
time.
it evening.
Avner and Rachel Bosky live in Beersheba, Israel, dedicated to stirring up the creative arts, worship, intercession, evangelism. Okay, great. And prophetic gifts within a Jewish Israeli matrix. They oversee Final Frontier Ministries. I had a feeling that it was something like that, but all right, but let's see what he says. Maybe there's some references that we could kind of look up. In 1966, Mick Jagger and Keith Richards released their huge hit, Painted Black. He said, quote, I see a red door and I want it painted black.
Yeah.
No colors anymore. I want them to turn black. Black as night, black as coal. Okay, so what happens when white replacement theology gets painted black? Students of Christian theology have usually bumped into something called replacement theology in the course of their studies. This term refers to is a way of interpreting the scriptures. It takes references to Israel and the Jewish people and then reinterprets them as referring instead to the Gentile church. Any seeming connection with the Jewish people and the physical seed of Jacob is now seen as overshadowed, and this is changed by Jesus's work on the cross. Although all those primitive Jewish blessings have evolved, according to this teaching, and morphed into God's original intent, which means that the blessings come only to Gentile followers of Jesus. Of course, the curses spoken over Jewish disobedience, and according to this interpretive system, still applies to the Jews. Here are 3 articles that may flesh out what's involved. Okay, hold on. So replacement theology studies have focused on the thoughts of Western and therefore white-skinned theologians. This newsletter broadens the scope, looking at how Black permutations of this white theology have influenced Black communities, not only over the years, both Christian and non-Christian, but some recent expressions in today's Black communities as well. Okay, so Black American Christian origins. Okay, we'll skip that. British Israelism becomes Black Israelism.
So
In the 1890s, what did you say?
No, I heard of British Israelism, like how Brits thought they were part of the 12 tribes or whatever it is.
They're not entirely wrong. In the 1890s, a teaching known as, again, within all of these ideas, you have factions. So in the 1890s, a teaching known as British or Anglo-Israelism began to spread throughout the United Kingdom and America. It emphasized that the original inhabitants of Britain were direct descendants of the ancient Israelites. The problem with that is that it seems that the Talmud and our oral tradition seems to coincide with what they said. It's a fact. Point it out. We can do an episode on it. Pseudo-Celtic and pseudo-Druidic elements peppered this movement. As this teaching spread throughout the northeastern USA, some Black leaders took this new teaching and altered it, saying that it was actually the Blacks and not the Anglo-Saxons who were the original Israelites. See, what's funny is that, like, my personal opinion, right? This is just purely my speculation, is that the people who ended up in the United States, primarily the white Western Europeans, but also many of the Black people, do in fact have Hebrew heritage. But that doesn't mean that they can take that idea and say, oh, you're a Khazar and you're not the real Jew and we should kill you because you stole our identity. That's you see my problem, right? Okay. So this mutation of white replacement theology would leave a pronounced spiritual scar on Black American communities. So Masonic influence started impacting Black American communities in the 1790s. The two main spokesmen of Prince Hall Masonry, that's the original Black Masonic Lodge, John Morant and Prince Hall, taught in Boston that the legacy of ancient Egypt and the biblical destiny of Ethiopia belonged to African Americans. Okay, so that's that. Don't forget, they're also claiming that the pharaonic Egyptians were Black. Right. So Freemasonry cultivated a tradition of doctrines, passwords, and symbols, symbolic rituals, which supposedly were derived from Solomon's temple in Jerusalem. These arabesque symbols and Arabic-sounding names brought an esoteric, quasi-African Middle Eastern flavor to Black Masonic rituals. It also set up a sympathetic open door to things Islamic, which would later be unpacked by Black movements in the 20th century. Black Israelism would assess these Masonic pseudo-legends of the ancient Israelites and build an African Israelite synthetic hybrid, which has strong influence today. Loving the Talmud and hating the Jews. Frank S. Cherry, we just read about this guy.
It's funny because Farrakhan gave a whole speech about like how we have to drop the Talmud.
So it's very schizophrenic. Frank S. Cherry in 1866 organized the Church of the Living God, Pillar of Truth for All Nations in Chattanooga, Tennessee. He taught himself rudimentary Hebrew and Yiddish. According to Cherry, Jesus, Adam, and Eve were Black, but white Jews deceitfully altered their Blackness for nefarious purposes. So we used to be Black. At least this guy is saying that we used to be Black. Now they're saying that we were never Jews. Okay. Cherry stated that white Jews were interlopers and frauds, and that God hates white Jews because they are inherently evil, because they rejected Jesus. And he used Revelations chapter 3, verse 9 as his proof text. By the way, here's the quote from Revelations chapter 3, verse 9. Behold, I will cause those of the synagogue of Satan
Yeah.
who say that they are Jews and are not, but lie. Okay. Dot, dot, dot. Cherry said that he received a divine vision that not all blacks are Jews, but that all true Jews are blacks of the lineage of Jacob. According to Cherry, the first white man was Gehazi, who was apparently in the second book of Kings, chapter 5, whose color changed to white when he was cursed. At other times, Cherry argued that he and his followers were, quote, part of the original Israelite tribes chased from Babylonia, and they claim into Central and Western Africa, where they were later sold into slavery by the Romans in 70 CE. Cherry taught that the earth is square, surrounded by 3 layers of heaven. He prophesied that Jesus would return in the year 2000, raising all the saints who kept the 10 Commandments and obeyed Cherry's teachings. He accepted the Talmud as authoritative, but I mean, did anybody learn it? Because it contradicts everything that he teaches. Anyway, he accepted the Talmud as authoritative, forbade the eating of pork, the observance of Christian holidays, the use of pianos, and speaking in tongues. Services began and ended with a prayer facing east toward Jerusalem. Meetings were held Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday evenings, and all Saturdays. Men wore skull caps and women wore blue and white capes with tassels. Okay. And then we got Reverend William Christian. In 1889, he founded the Church of the Living God. His catechism asks and answers the question, was Jesus a member of the black race? Answer, yes. Matthew 1 is the assertion, is this assertion sufficient proof that Jesus came of the black generation? Yes. Okay. What is it to be a Jew? It is to be a living expression of the highest ideals of human existence. That's your tunnel into Platonism, by the way.
Yeah.
Let's see, William Saunders Crowdy, 1896, Church of God and Saints of Christ, Lawrence, Kansas. Heavily influenced by Masonic symbolism and eschatology, which wouldn't be too crazy because Freemasonry is mostly Christian. He taught that blacks are the lost 10 tribes of Israel, chosen people destined to play a central role in the narrative of mankind. Crowdy's congregations kept the seventh-day Sabbath, celebrated the Jewish feasts, circumcision, and denied that Jesus was God. Crowdy dealt with issues of race-connected shame in an unusual way. He taught that modern so-called Jews have breached God's law against intermarriage. And as punishment for this, they become white. In so doing, they have degraded themselves. Now to be white is to be degraded. Instead of confronting the supposed shame of blackness, Crowdy has turned the equation upside down. Now we have the shame of whiteness. There are strong echoes of this dynamic today in issues pushed by Black Lives Matter movement. All right. I wonder if there's any overlap between Black Lives Matter and the Black Hebrew Israelites. What do you think? I don't know.
Yeah. Also.
Then we have Léon Richelieu in 1899 established the Moorish Zionist temple in Brooklyn. Richelieu maintained that he was of Ethiopian origin from the supposed union of King Solomon and Queen of Ethiopia and the Queen, and that his congregation was composed of black Jews from 2 or 3 Jewish tribes driven out of Israel and into Africa as a result of civil war. In 1929, it was reorganized under Mordecai Herman as the congregation of the Moorish Zionist Temple of the Moorish Jews in Harlem. An offshoot was the Beth B'nai Abraham, House of the Sons of Abraham. They taught that they were descended from Black Jews in Carthage,
Mhm.
which is modern Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia, and Libya. Others taught that Black Jews came from Ethiopia or from the Hausa tribe of Nigeria. This later congregation also denied that Jesus was God, but they observed Ramadan.
Radaman?
Ramadan, yes.
Dennis Radaman?
Yeah. And then we have, we're almost done. Then we have Arnold Josiah Ford. In the mid 1920s, became quote unquote rabbi at Beth B'nai Abraham.
Mhm.
He was born in Barbados to a Nigerian father and a mother from Sierra Leone. He was part of the Harlem jazz world when he met Marcus Garvey of UNI fame. He unsuccessfully tried to get Garvey to convert to Judaism, I guess his kind of Judaism,
Yeah.
and moved to Ethiopia. His teachings were a cholent of Judaism,
Mhm.
Pentecostalism,
Alright.
Islam, what they consider Kabbalah, and Freemasonry. In November 1930, Ford traveled to Ethiopia to participate in the coronation of Haile Selassie in the Haile Selassie
Oh,
Pavilion
bulu, ha. Ha, 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 ha.
as Lion of Judah.
Hilarious.
Ford died in Ethiopia in 1935. Though his Black Israelite colonization of Ethiopia didn't bear much fruit, the Black Israelite engagement with Ethiopia proved critical to the formation of Rastafarianism, which lives today as Jamaica's most visible artistic culture. So listen to this, Greg. They tried to attach themselves to the actual Ethiopian Jews, the real Jews in Ethiopia, and it didn't work. It didn't even work with them.
Yeah.
The Rastafarian movement believes that they are the descendants of the original Hebrew Israelites and that Haile Selassie is the coming of Messiah of Judah. On November 2nd, 1930, when Ras Tafari was Selassie, right?
Hell.
He was crowned Emperor of Ethiopia. He received the rank of Negusa Nagast, King of Kings.
Hilarious.
His royal epithets, King of Kings, or Elect of God, or Conquering Lion of the Tribe of Judah. These titles are applied in the book of Revelation to Jesus. Ethiopian tradition claimed that the royal line in Ethiopia began with Menelik, who was first king of Ethiopia, and apparently the child of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. The king of Ethiopia was thus a descendant of the house of David. Jamaican Leonard Howell concluded that the oracle was being fulfilled in the coronation and that the Messiah promised in the Christian book of Acts, chapter 2, verse 29, quote, "He shall come through the lineage of Solomon and sit on David's throne." Okay, that's all right. And arrived in the person of the Ethiopian emperor. Here is an amazing example of how Black replacement theology places an Ethiopian Gentile on David's throne, wreaking havoc on prophecies. Then we have Timothy Drew, aka Noble Drew Ali. In 1913, he founded the Canaanite Temple in Newark, New Jersey, which was later renamed the Moorish Science Temple of America. He later moved to Chicago. Ali taught that he was a reincarnation of Jesus. Also, he was a reincarnation of Buddha and Muhammad. He taught that Blacks are descendants of the Moabites, aka Moorish, and are Islamic.
Yeah.
Ali recounted that an Egyptian priest gave him a lost section of the Quran. His lost section of the Quran contains the first 19 chapters.
Amazing that people believe these charlatans.
Yeah, well, listen to this.
Yeah.
This lost chapter from the Quran contains the first 19 chapters
Mhm.
from an occult work published in 1908 called The Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ. Chapters 20 through 45 are borrowed from a Rosicrucian work, Unto Thee I Grant, which is, by the way, an Illuminati group.
Yeah.
Which,
Heard
by the
about
way, is a Gnostic group, which, by the way, is Platonic.
Yeah.
Okay. Noble Drew Ali
Amazing.
believed that Chicago would become a second Mecca.
Mhm.
Chicago did become the center of his movement. And after Drew Ali died in 1929, a congregant named Wallace Fard Muhammad, aka David Ford L., claimed to be the reincarnation of Drew Ali. Okay. When his claim was rejected, Ford L. broke away from the Moorish Science Temple and moved to Detroit, where he formed his own group that would become the Nation of Islam.
Joseph Ducrot wrote, "Conquering lion fear, give Jah thanks and praise."
Did you hear what I just said?
Yes, Nation of Islam. Yes.
Okay. On February 26, 2014, Louis Farrakhan acknowledged the contributions of Noble Drew Ali to the Nation of Islam and their founding principles. The deeply Jew-hating teachings of the Nation of Islam are based on Black replacement theology.
Mm-hmm.
Black racist teachings espoused by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yes.
It didn't say honorable, but I remember from the movie.
Yes.
Okay. Espoused by Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X, and Louis Farrakhan, have strongly influenced leading voices in both the Black Power movement and BLM.
Yeah.
Radical Black nationalist and minister Albert Cleage was deeply influenced by Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam. The creation of the devil and the end of the white man's rule. The theological influence of the Nation of Islam on early Black theology, Marjorie Cordman, 2020. Okay. So the following quote from Cleage shows Black replacement theology shaped his perspectives. We know that Israel was a Black nation and that descendants of the original Black Jews are in Israel, Africa, and the Mediterranean area today.
I mean, things kind of get dark there, but yeah.
The Bible was written by Black Jews. The Old Testament is the history of Black Jews. The first three Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, tell the story of Jesus, retaining some of the original material, which establishes the simple fact that Jesus built upon the Old Testament. Jesus was a Black Messiah. He came to free a Black people from the oppression of the white Gentiles. We know this now to be a fact. Our religion, our preaching, our teachings all come from the Old Testament, for we are God's chosen people. God is working with us every day, helping us find a way to freedom. Jesus tried to teach the nation of Israel how to come together as Black people, to be brothers one with another, to stand against the white man. God. The recent December 19 murder of 3 Jewish shoppers at a kosher grocery store in Jersey City was carried out by members of Black Israelite offshoot known as the Israelite Church of God in Jesus Christ. This denomination is classified as a hate group. Their theology mirrors many of the developments sketched out in this brief historical overview. So why Black Israelism? Professor Jacob Dorman was charted 3 distinct generations of Black Israelism. The pioneer generation of Southern preachers from 1890 to 1916, and the second generation from 1920 to 30, which blossomed in the urban metropolises of the North and incorporated modern Jewish elements. And a third generation from 1960 to 1980 of militant Black nationalist groups. Right? At the heart, quote, at the heart of all Black Israelite faiths was a radical reimagining of the Black past, present, and future. It has been a religious counter discourse that places Black people of African descent at the very heart of history, civilizations, of God's chosen people, with a unique racial mission to prepare the earth for the coming millennium. So another quote, African Americans appropriated and advocated quote unquote Judaism, Jewishness, or Jewish history, and often an Israelite bloodline in their attempts to counter oppression. gained approval to recreate lost history, revolt against white authority, and forge new, more useful identities. Blacks claimed Jewish racial identity to escape the stigma that they came with being regarded as Black. So a more detailed analysis. Okay, so, there we go. Finally, this is the end.
Mm-hmm.
Black replacement theology meets Marxist liberation theology.
Mm-hmm.
Marxist political scientists have given the world an ambivalent gift, a blend of Marxist dialectics and anti-capitalist revolutionary strategies. When this political philosophy moves into African American territory, it adopts the name Black liberation theology. On July 31st, 1966, an ad hoc group of 51 Black pastors, National Committee of Negro Churchmen, brought a full-page ad. They bought, a full-page ad in the New York Times to publish their Black Power Statement. In 1969, James Cone released his Black Theology and Black Power, and in 1970, he published a Black Theology of Liberation. These Marxist-rooted perspectives are an integral part of the political worldviews of the leaders of BLM. A New York Times article in 2008 concludes that at least 1/4 of African-American churches follow Black liberation theology. 1/4 of churches. Reverend Jeremiah Wright was former pastor to the then Senator Barack Obama at Trinity United Church of Christ, Chicago, a successful megachurch.
The president of the United States for 8 years is a Black Hebrew Israelite follower.
Well, these guys don't call themselves the Black Hebrew Israelites. This is
and a Muslim.
Yeah, but maybe he was one of the, that guy who was like everything. He was like the reincarnation of Muhammad and Buddha. And
reincarnation
Jesus.
of the long-legged Mac Daddy. Remember that? Atla Ministries.
Yeah, that guy is
He
awesome.
is the long-legged Mac Daddy.
Yeah.
What's his name?
I don't know, but that guy is awesome. He's in Harlem, right?
Yeah. He's also in Harlem.
I love that guy.
Harlem.
Yeah.
Obama beat your mama. Remember Paul Mooney?
Yeah.
Obama beat your mama.
Who was white?
Obama
a white Irish
mama.
lady, by the way. But anyway.
What?
His mother was a white Irish lady, just as a side
Paul
note.
Mooney?
Obama.
Yeah.
All right. Communist, of course, married a communist agent. She put for those interested, you have to look at Frank Marshall Davis.
Yes.
Was Obama's
that was his mentor.
That was his mentor, famous commie.
Yep. In Hawaii.
Yeah. But anyway, a New York Times article in 2008 concludes that at least 1/4 of African American churches follow this Marxist liberation theology. Reverend Jeremiah Wright, former pastor to then Senator Barack Obama at Trinity United Church of Christ, Chicago, which was a successful megachurch, which following James Cone's theology of Black liberation. Wright made headlines many times on a number of issues, including a public damning of America and his use of Malcolm X's famous line, "Chickens coming home to roost." In blaming America,
have come home to roost.
Yeah. Blaming America for the 9/11 attacks. He's also on record as having made many Jew-hating public pronouncements. Okay. As we connect these dots, it is sobering to see how deep the need is for urgent prayer and proactive discernment here. Who will contend for the spiritual healing of America in general and for Black America specifically?